our community's sick over this. When you hear about a child being abused, being killed, it makes you physically sick. And your mayor's no different than any other mom and dad in Albuquerque. Makes you angry. I got briefed. I talked to Chief Eden this morning, and I want the community to know a couple of things. First of all, we're praying for the little girl, praying for our community. This is a horrific crime. I know that APD is going to give you more details on it. You have my assurance and Chief Eden's assurance that we have every resource available to make sure that this case is brought to justice and that the monsters responsible for this are brought to justice. But you know what? That doesn't bring this little girl back. This doesn't undo the evil and the harm that was done. And I think, my reaction is as a parent, as a mayor, is the same as everybody else. You get tired of turning on the television and seeing where a child has been harmed or killed. And in this case, it's just, it's horrific. And so we're just doing a couple of things today. We're letting people know that we're have all the resources that we have available on it. There will be no rock unturned. And the second thing is just talk to your kids. Let's talk as a community. This is a traumatic thing for a community, and we want people to take a little extra time today to talk to the children in your family, talk to the adults in your family. It's great to give your kid an extra hug, but then let's also talk about being vigilant. We have resources in our community. If you know a child, if you have a concern about a child being abused, if you have a concern about a child in general, you can call Pound Safe. We have a 311 app that has a button. With one click of a button, you can report child abuse. And let's just know that there are things that we can do. No one's responsible for this other than the monsters that perpetrated this act of evil on this little girl. Let's make no mistake. But as we come together as a community to grieve and to mourn, and as we look to what we can do as parents, as neighbors, as community members, there are things that we can do, and we can be watchful, and we can do everything within our power as a community to make sure that if a child is out there and they're in harm's way or they're being abused, that we keep our eyes and ears open.
You mentioned law enforcement taking steps, doing all they can, using all the available resources to try and bring the perpetrators to justice. You talk a little bit about, beyond that, what's the city doing, I guess, in response?
Well, the community's coming together. We're a strong community. We always come together in the face of tragedy. And there will be events that will be scheduled in our community to pay tribute to this little girl and to bring attention to the issue. You'll hear about those throughout the news, through your media outlets. But I would just ask our community, just take a moment today to stop and just talk to each other, because this is traumatic for the entire community. And a lot of times when you can dialogue about it, and you can talk about actionable items, and you can talk about things that we can do as a community to do our level best to try to protect children in our community. That's what we need to be doing. And then and today and in the future we're grieving. So right now we're grieving, we're angry. We don't understand how someone could perpetrate this kind of evil on a child. And so there's just a lot of emotion and a lot of hurt in the community right now, and we need to rely on each other.
You mentioned those law enforcement officers. Just think about those individuals walking in on a crime scene like that. Think about maybe potentially keeping law enforcement.
Say a prayer for your firefighters and for your police officers, because these men and women do, they see a lot of horrific things in the course of their work as public safety professionals. But when you have a situation like this, we had psychologists on the scene, and that's not something that that takes a toll on these firefighters and on these police officers, and keep them in your thoughts and prayers.
Mayor, do you ever think when we continue hearing stories like this that it's not true, and B, when is this ever going to stop?
You know, you pray that a child is never harmed. And every day around the country, you turn on the television and you see a child being harmed. And you know, you want to do as much as you possibly can, and it involves public safety initiatives. It involves the criminal justice system. It involves protective services for these kids. I mean, there's a safety net out there. But the fact is, when someone's going to perpetrate evil, sometimes those safety nets just can't catch everything. And I don't know what the circumstances are going to be with this case. We will be looking at every issue with this case. We will find out about potential criminal histories, what these monsters have perpetrated this. We will find out a lot more details in the coming days. And then we will use that from a public safety perspective as a city to find, if there's things that we can do better, we'll want to do those. I think about Omar Varela. That young man's death spurred a lot of change. And it spurred us taking a hard look at areas where we needed to improve, not just at APD, but through the criminal justice system, through the child protective services. But today's a day to grieve. And I'm angry. I'm angry as a dad. I'm angry as a mayor. But we need to use this as we move forward to come together as a community. And if there's things that we can do better, we need to look at those. It's hard to comprehend.
You think there's anything that potentially could be done at the state level to prevent something like this?
Yeah, we're talking about the death penalty right now, at the state level. And I was a state legislator when the death penalty was abolished. I was in the House. I voted against demolishing the death penalty in New Mexico. And it was these kinds of cases. It was the murder of Officer Webster, the murder of Officer Benner. We've had 4 police officers in New Mexico murdered in the last 18 months. We've had multiple cases where children were killed, sometimes in horrific fashion. My personal belief is we need the death penalty for those limited and horrific circumstances. But we need it. And that's why I voted against abolishing it. And that's why I think the governor's right to talk about bringing it back in cases of police officers and murder of children. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks.
Anything else
Hang
you'd
in
like
there.
to say or add?
No, we just let's come together as a community. Let's huddle as a community, because we're going to have to get through this together. And we're just so sorry that this little girl lost her life. And it's just one of those things you just never want to hear about, and it's happened here in our city. So let's come together as a community, and let's do what we can to support each other, support other survivors, and see what we can do to keep this from happening in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.